start things off, we're going to be disassembling this carburetor here. So remove the air filter here. Customer said it's pretty new, and it kind of is. You know, I would say it's used, but somewhat new. And as you can see already, there is water right there on the base of that air filter housing, so which tells me that there's water inside the carburetor. So we're going to be removing these two nuts here, 10 millimeter. Set those to the side. Pop this thing off. I usually take this tank vent line off, or emission line off, and that's that. So as you can see, there's some mud and debris because, like I said, he leaves it outside his house. And you can see right here, his carburetor linkage is actually broken off right here. So this linkage is supposed to be connected right here, and it kind of whenever the engine starts, it twists this around and it pops it off of choke, but now it can't do that because the carburetor is actually broken. So unfortunately, you cannot fix this unless you like find a tiny screw and like mess with this, but then he needs a carb rebuild and all that. So I'm gonna see what I can do, see if I can make this work. But this is actually, it's not a screw because it can't be tightened all the way. It needs to like sit into place and be able to swivel. Okay, so now we'll take this off, and I like these angled hose clamps. You can really grab it and do what you want with it, you know, rather than just using some straight needle nose pliers. But these bent ones work very well. So what I like to do is bust the seam, because it gets stuck on there kind of like a tire on a car, and you gotta, you know, crack the bead. That's kind of what I like to do there. Then I'll take my straight needle nose and I'll just pry this thing off. And as you can see, like the rubber is still there, because these things, they get stuck on there pretty good. So we'll set that there for now. We'll remove the throttle cable and pop that thing out of there like that. And then remove the spring there. And then over here, it'd be kind of hard for you guys to see, but under here, I like to bend this linkage up. And let me see if I can bring you in for a closer look. So right here, if you bend this linkage up right here, you bend it up to where it can go further than what it normally would, and you can pop this linkage out of here. Watch this. Let's see if I can do it with one hand. So up and over, and you slide this linkage up like that, and you pop it out. So I'm actually quite impressed that I was able to do that with one hand. Pop this linkage off, and then the carburetor is free. So now I'm gonna clean it off, and then we'll look into this and we'll go to the next step. Okay, so now that we have our carburetor off, we'll go ahead and clean everything off of here and run some brake cleaner over the exterior, because you don't want any of that debris getting inside the carburetor if you plan to rebuild or replace, or just rebuild, I guess, since we don't care what it looks like if we replace it. But I'm just going to tear it apart, make sure the inside is okay before I even consider fixing the linkage. So blow it off over here. Okay, so while I'm going to be rebuilding the carburetor, something I like to do is get the tank drained and get it dried out. This is a very, very important step in this process, because water is very hard to get out, and if you don't get the water out of the fuel tank, then you're pretty much gonna ruin a carburetor that you just rebuilt. So you'll have to take it apart, you'll have to do everything all over again. It is very important to get the old gas, water, debris out of the fuel tank, because it's like putting used oil in a brand new engine in your car. So that's the best way to put it. I just like to connect a little hose there, run it to a container and drain it like that. So I have to bring it down a little bit for the hose to reach, and that's it. So I'll put it into that container there and undo my clamp here, and it'll drain right into that. So You can almost hear it doing that. And if you remove the fuel cap, what I would do is before you remove the fuel cap, make sure that it keeps draining, because you can test a tank not venting by this step here. So let's say you had the cap on and you had a full tank where the gas is not coming out, then you have something wrong. Either the vent is bad, or you have a blockage in the fuel line, or a couple different things. But it also tests the vent in the tank. So and usually it'll stop within 5 seconds, I would say. So in this case, it's good. So I want it to drain faster, so I'm going to remove the fuel cap like so, and then we'll move on to rebuilding the carburetor. All right, so first things first, let's get the bowl off this thing and make sure that the internals are good. So when you unscrew this bottom piece, you want to knock off the bowl here. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to come off, and if they're pretty corroded, then that will usually be your sign that when it won't come off, that's usually your telltale sign that the internal is pretty corroded. But this is actually not too bad. As you can see, that gas is very bad. It's very old, yellow, nasty gas. It smells terrible. So for me, I'm going to show you guys how to rebuild the carburetor. And so what you want to do is take brake cleaner, and you want to clean all this out here, right? Spray with brake cleaner, all these little parts. Spray them all with brake cleaner, and then remove your float here. So I'll turn it towards the light here so you can see. Pin comes out, float and needle usually stay intact like that. Put those to the side. Now take a small screwdriver that's, I mean small as in the width, but thick enough to where it won't damage this emulsion tube and main jet. So you're going to put a flathead screwdriver on the inside here, and then you're going to righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Take this bottom main jet out first. Sometimes they could be a pain to come out. Sometimes they slide right out. That's the main jet right there. And then we will take out the emulsion tube, and you push inside here. You can almost see it sticking up. The lighting is terrible in here, but you pry it up and then it'll fall out the bottom. So that's the emulsion tube, and that's the main jet. Remove the idle stop screw, and then we're going to take out this pilot jet. Okay, like so. Pop this dude out here. So this cap here is the pilot jet. So I'm not too worried about the debris and stuff, because you know why? I just bought a new ultrasonic cleaner, and instead of cleaning all these little pieces and everything, I'm just going to drop these in the ultrasonic cleaner and give them a bath and pull them out. They should be good to go. But you can see what this is supposed to look like. You see that little, like a little rivet right there? It's got like a little clip on the bottom. That's what this is supposed to be. And I can try and make it work with a screw. The only downside is that I'm doing this for a business. So my reputation is on the line with any machine I do. So for lack of better words, a half-ass fix would be putting a screw in here and calling it. But is that reliable? Is that the right way? That is something a shade tree mechanic would do, or a fly-by-night mechanic would do. But me, I try to protect my reputation, and I will actually give the customer the option of doing it this way, putting a screw in. But I also will highly recommend just replacing the carburetor, especially because it has to be rebuilt and everything, and honestly it can become a pain. So I'm going to see what the customer wants to do, and then we will go from there. But I just want you guys to understand this is how you rebuild the carburetor. So at this point, you clean all these little jets out. There's the emulsion tube has small little perforated jets in there. Clean those out. Clean your main jet out. You should be able to see through that, which you can right now. So the carburetor is actually not too bad. It just has some really old gas where it literally stained this float. As you can see, it's where the gas line goes up. It's very yellow, so he has some very nasty gas in this. So At this point, you can rebuild, put it together, but at this point, I'm gonna have to contact the customer and see what he wants to do. All right, so it's a new day, and today we are going to be reassembling the carburetor. I threw it in my ultrasonic cleaner, as you can see right there, and now, because the customer, they're trying to be as cheap as possible, so they wanted the carb to be, you know, somewhat rigged, I guess, or I let them know that I could improvise something, but this bracket here was broke off right there. It's missing this like through pin with a clip and everything, and you can't get that little part. You have to order the whole carburetor. So I found a sheetrock screw and cut it down to size, and now it works perfect. So now we'll put this carburetor back apart. So if you're going to be rebuilding it, if you don't have an ultrasonic cleaner, take brake cleaner, and there's these perforated holes there. Put it here, blow through all this, blow through it. Take like, if you have a loaf of bread, the little tie for it, take the plastic off of it, and you can use that little wire part of it and clean out all the holes, including this main jet here. Clean out all these little holes, and then put it back together like this. So this emulsion tube has a little nozzle right here that drops through. It goes in first, and then the screw, the main jet, goes in the bottom there, and you just kind of thread it in just like a regular screw. This screwdriver, I custom made it for these carburetors. Okay, just like that. Now we will put the float on, make sure there's no debris, and then put the pin in. If I could find the pin, I left it here somewhere. We had a storm come in last night and some crazy winds, so it blew all my stuff around. That's why there's dirt and everything everywhere. Let me find this pin real quick. All right, so we found the pin here, and now we will slide the pin through the float to where then it can rest there. And we'll put the bowl on. This is the front of the carburetor, and so when you put it on, you want this nut, this drain nut, to be accessible. So I usually put it to the side or to the exterior. That way you can drain the carburetor after the season, so, or at any point. Okay, now we'll put this pilot jet in here. I usually spray a little brake cleaner on these O-rings here, and then I'll slide it back into place there. Okay, it just literally falls right in, because sometimes it'll be hard to be pressed in. Okay, then we'll screw this idle stop screw in. This doesn't really matter, but I usually screw it in because there's about 2 threads sticking out of the outside right here. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and hook my auto choke up, the thermostat up, and then I'm gonna go back over here and do the same thing I did earlier with putting when I took the linkage out. I'm gonna put it back in. See if I can move this to where y'all can see. So you drop this into its slot, and then bend this tab back down, like so. Not sure if you saw that, but I did the best I could. So what I like to do is I like to clamp off this line here, and then put some fresh gas in it. Let me grab some fresh gas, canned gas, because I warranty my work and I know that this canned gas is going to last 30 days. So I just put enough to get it going. Okay, and what I like to do is I like to drain out whatever's in the line to clear the line. So I loosen my hemostats there, and whatever was in that line is now flushed out, because you don't want that nasty stuff going in first. So put that on. We'll put our clamp back on here. Okay, and now we'll put the throttle linkage on, and then the spring on. Okay, we'll fold this bad boy back over here. And don't forget about your tank fan or emission line, whatever you want to call it. And then we'll put that on there. The gasket is still on the carburetor. I never took it off. These don't rely too heavily on them. Unless they're broken, replace it. Okay, we'll put both of these on here like so. Remember, it had a newer air filter, and again, the customer is pretty cheap, so we're just going to slide that back on. Remove the spider web that's around the fuel cap, and there you go. Now we'll fire it up.